Storm over Redemption Hill. The sky above Redemption Hill was bruised and trembling. Heavy clouds rolled like a restless ocean, blotting out the moon and stars. The dusty trail that wound through the valley lay silent except for the occasional cry of a coyote, carried on the wind. Inside a small clapboard church, a lone lamp flickered beside the altar. Its faint glow fell upon rows of empty pews, and a girl kneeling at the front, hands clasped, lips trembling. Mary Whitlock, the preacher's only daughter, whispered softly, "Lord, keep my father safe on his journey to Abilene, and keep me strong while he's gone." The old wooden door creaked behind her as the wind howled. She rose and turned, clutching the silver cross around her neck. The storm was building faster than she'd thought. Her father, Reverend Silas Whitlock, had ridden off that morning to deliver aid to a distant congregation. He'd said he'd be gone 3 days. That left Mary alone at the church and the little parsonage next to it. She had been told all her life that fear was the devil's whisper. Yet tonight, as thunder cracked over the plains, even her faith felt small. She went to bar the door. Then she saw them. 2 riders emerging through sheets of rain, silhouettes swaying with their horses' tired steps. They were huge, broad as barn doors even from a distance. Lightning flared, painting their shapes in white fire. 2 men in long coats, hats pulled low, driving their horses toward the church. Mary's heart leapt. She'd heard the talk in town. The Landon twins, ranch hands from the far reaches of Black Mesa. Folks said they were wild, strong enough to bend an iron stirrup, yet never cruel. But others claimed they were hiding from something dark that had happened near the border. As the riders dismounted, Mary hurried to light another lamp. A heavy knock rattled the door. "Ma'am," came a deep voice. "We mean no harm. Storm's coming fierce. We just need a place to rest the night." Mary hesitated, fingers hovering over the latch. Then the wind shrieked, so loud it nearly tore the hinges loose. She opened the door. 2 towering figures stepped in, dripping water and mud. They looked like men carved from the land itself, broad shoulders, wild hair, and eyes that carried the weight of long roads and longer regrets. "I'm Jeb Landon," said the taller one, pulling off his hat. "This here's my brother Caleb. We were headed north, but near got swept off the trail. Saw the church light." Mary swallowed. "You can dry yourselves by the stove. The wind's near tearing the roof off." Caleb gave a nod, his deep-set eyes softening with gratitude. "Thank you, miss. Didn't mean to scare you none." They brought in their saddlebags and rifles, setting them aside carefully. Mary noticed how both men treated their gear with quiet discipline, like soldiers. As the fire cracked and the storm roared outside, the 3 of them sat in uneasy silence. "Your pa the preacher here?" Jeb asked after a while. Mary nodded. "He's tending to another town. Won't be back till Tuesday." The twins exchanged a glance, quick, unreadable. Then Caleb spoke, his voice quieter, thoughtful. "You staying alone out here?" "Yes. I've done it before." "That's brave." Mary smiled faintly. "Faith makes you braver than you are." Jeb chuckled, rubbing his hands before the fire. "Wish I'd had some of that when the Comanche raiders hit our spread last winter." The room grew still. Mary's eyes softened. "You lost your family?" "Our ranch burned," Caleb said simply. "Only ones left are us." The way he said it, no self-pity, no anger, made something tighten in Mary's chest. "You can stay here till morning," she said gently. "There's stew in the pot, and dry blankets in the parsonage. The Lord wouldn't turn anyone away in a storm." Jeb grinned. "Neither would an angel." Mary blushed, pretending to busy herself with the kettle. Later that night, the storm grew violent. Shutters banged. Water leaked through the roof in thin, cold streams. Mary showed them to the small parsonage beside the church, a modest house with 2 rooms, 1 bed, and a stone hearth. "You'll take both of us tonight?" Jeb asked lightly, half smiling as thunder boomed. Mary froze, not sure she'd heard right. Then Caleb gave his brother a sharp look. "He means both of us under the same roof, miss. We're grateful for your kindness." "Oh," she let out a nervous laugh. "Of course. There's room enough if you don't mind the floor." The brothers spread their bedrolls by the fire, while Mary sat near the window, mending one of her father's old shirts. Rain tapped like fingers on the glass. Jeb leaned back, watching her in the flicker of firelight. "You ain't scared of strangers, are you?" "I trust the Lord," she said softly. "Still," Caleb murmured, "the world ain't always kind to trusting souls." Mary met his gaze. There was sorrow there, deep and real, like something that couldn't be prayed away. "You've both seen much, haven't you?" she asked. "Too much," Caleb said. "Enough to make a man wonder if heaven's still watching," Jeb added. Mary lowered her sewing. "It always is." As the night dragged on, the wind howled like a living thing. The fire sputtered low. Mary offered them each a piece of cornbread from the pantry. They ate slowly, quietly, as if every bite reminded them of something lost. Then, in the stillness, Jeb spoke. We weren't just running from the storm, miss. Mary looked up. There were men after us. The kind that don't forgive. Her fingers trembled. Outlaws. Worse, Caleb said. Men of the law, with no law left in them. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded telegram. The paper was soaked, the ink smudged, but she could still make out the words. Wanted, the Landon brothers, for murder in San Miguel County. Mary's breath caught. You killed someone. Jeb's jaw tightened. We defended a boy who didn't deserve hanging. The marshal's men didn't care for that. Caleb's voice was steady but hollow. We shot to save him. One died. They called it murder. Mary stared at the fire, her heart pounding. You should turn yourselves in. And hang for doing right. Jeb said bitterly. No one spoke for a long time. Outside, the thunder rolled like cannon fire. At last, Mary stood. If you're telling the truth, then the Lord will see you through this storm too. I'll pray for you. Caleb smiled faintly. You already done more than that, miss. When the lightning struck the steeple an hour later, they all ran. Flames licked at the roof of the church, devouring the dry wood like kindling. Mary tried to drag a bucket from the well, but the wind ripped it away. The twins grabbed the water troughs, splashing and smothering what they could. Back inside, Jeb shouted as the roof groaned. It's coming down. Mary stumbled, coughing through smoke. Caleb caught her by the arm, lifting her as if she weighed nothing. The three of them tumbled back into the parsonage, drenched and shaking. Through the window, the church glowed like a dying lantern against the storm. Mary fell to her knees, tears streaming. My father's house, it's gone. Caleb knelt beside her. Walls burn. Faith don't. Jeb stood at the door, silhouetted against the lightning. You saved us, miss. Maybe we can save you too. By dawn, the storm had passed. Smoke rose from what remained of the church, black beams, ash, and silence. Mary stood outside, shivering, the sun creeping up over the hills. The twins packed their saddlebags quietly. You leaving? She asked. Jeb looked at her gently. We got to. The law won't stop chasing. We can't drag trouble to your door. Mary stepped closer. You could stay till my father returns. He'll know what to do. Caleb smiled sadly. Preacher or not, he can't fight what's coming for us. She bit her lip. Then where will you go? Wherever the road don't find us. Jeb said. Mary's eyes glistened. The Lord brought you here for a reason. Maybe not just to run. For a long moment, neither brother spoke. Then Caleb took something from his coat pocket. A small silver cross, bent and tarnished. Our ma gave us this, he said. Said it belonged to her when she was your age. He placed it in her palm. It's safer with you. Mary's voice broke. You'll come back, won't you? Jeb smiled faintly. If heaven still watches, maybe. They mounted their horses as the wind stirred the ashes behind them. Mary stood there, clutching the cross, watching until they disappeared beyond the ridge. And though the morning light washed the valley clean, she knew the story wasn't over. Somewhere out there, two brothers carried the weight of redemption on their backs. And one preacher's daughter waited, praying the storm had only just begun. The return to Redemption Hill. The ashes of the church had long cooled, but the memory of that storm still clung to Redemption Hill like a ghost. For 2 weeks, the valley was quiet. The folk in town whispered about the lightning fire that burned down the preacher's chapel. Some said it was an act of God. Others, darker-minded, claimed it was punishment. Through it all, Mary Whitlock kept her head high. Each morning, she swept the charred foundation, humming old hymns to herself. Each night, she prayed by the ruins, believing that if she stayed faithful, the Lord would send her a sign. But the nights were getting colder and lonelier. Reverend Silas had not returned. His journey had been longer than planned, and no word had reached her. The parsonage was nearly empty of supplies. Mary had grown thinner, her eyes shadowed from worry. Still she waited. For her father. And for them. On the 16th night, a horse's whinny shattered the silence. Mary froze, her needlework falling to the floor. She stepped to the window. The moon hung low and silver, lighting the open road. 2 riders were coming. Her breath caught. She would have known those shapes anywhere. Broad-shouldered, steady, unmistakable. She ran to the door just as the horses came to a stop. Dust and moonlight swirled around the men as they dismounted. Evening, Miss Whitlock, said Jeb Landon, his familiar grin half hidden under his hat brim. Beside him, Caleb looked weary, his coat torn and dark stains along one sleeve. Mary's hand flew to her mouth. You're hurt. Caleb gave a slow shake of his head. Just grazed. Jeb set down his saddlebag. We didn't plan to come back, ma'am. But things went bad in Abilene. The marshal's men are a day behind us. Mary's heart raced. You're being hunted again? Caleb's voice was quiet. A man died. Not by our hand, but they'll say it was. She looked from one brother to the other. They seemed even larger now, like shadows carved from hardship. Without thinking, she reached out, touching the edge of Caleb's torn sleeve. You saved my life that night. I won't turn you away. Jeb's voice softened. You'll take both of us tonight, even after all you've heard? Mary met his eyes. If I didn't, what would that say about my faith? Inside the parsonage, Mary heated water and tore linen strips for bandages. The twins removed their coats and boots, moving carefully, like men too used to pain. The firelight danced across their faces. Caleb's expression was calm as ever, though his arm bled through the shirt. Jeb paced near the window, every muscle tense. They'll be riding through by morning, Jeb muttered. If they see smoke, they'll check this place. Mary looked up. You can hide in the cellar. There's food and a cot down there. Jeb frowned. You'd risk your neck for 2 men-branded killers. Mary tied off the bandage around Caleb's arm. I don't believe God sends people to your door by mistake. Caleb smiled faintly. You're something else, miss. She blushed but didn't look away. Hours passed in near silence. The wind hissed through the hills. Occasionally, the neigh of a distant horse reminded them that the law was not far behind. Mary dozed by the fire, Bible open on her lap. Jeb stood at the door, rifle in hand, watching the horizon through the cracked windowpane. Caleb slept on the cot, his breathing steady now that the bleeding had stopped. You should rest, Mary murmured when she stirred awake. Jeb shook his head. Ain't no rest for the hunted. You don't have to keep running, she said softly. You could stay here. My father would understand. He gave a dry laugh. Preachers' men don't take kindly to outlaws. You're not outlaws, she said firmly. You're men who did what you thought was right. Sometimes that's all the Lord asks. Her words hung between them, quiet and sure. Jeb turned, his eyes shadowed by the glow of the dying fire. You got more courage than anyone I've ever met. Mary smiled faintly. No, just faith. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was deep, almost sacred. Then Caleb stirred, sitting up with a groan. They'll be coming soon, he said. I can feel it. Jeb nodded grimly. We can't drag you down with us, miss. We'll ride before dawn. You'll do no such thing, Mary said, standing. You came back for a reason. Maybe this time you fight. Fight, Jeb repeated. Not with guns, she said quietly. With truth. At dawn, the sound of hooves shattered the valley. 5 riders approached, the sheriff of Abilene, Marshal Grady, and 4 deputies. They were hard men, dressed in dust and suspicion. Mary stood in front of the parsonage door, skirts whipping in the wind. Miss Whitlock, Grady called out, reining in his horse. We're looking for Jeb and Caleb Landon. Word is they passed this way. Mary's voice was steady. You mean the Landon brothers who saved my life when the church burned? Grady's eyes narrowed. That's one way to tell it. You seen him. She hesitated, then shook her head. Not since the storm. The marshal leaned forward in his saddle. You sure, miss? I'd hate to think a preacher's daughter was lying to an officer of the law. Mary folded her hands in front of her, as if in prayer. Sir, I'd hate to think an officer of the law would question a preacher's daughter without proof. Grady's jaw tightened. Search the place. The deputies dismounted. Mary stepped aside, her heart pounding so loud it felt like thunder in her chest. Beneath the floorboards, hidden behind the trapdoor under the rug, the Landon brothers crouched in silence. The boots thudded overhead. One deputy opened cupboards, another kicked open the back door. Dust fell from the beams. Jeb gripped his revolver, breathing slow. Caleb put a hand on his arm. Not unless we have to, he whispered. Above them, Grady entered the small kitchen. He stopped, eyeing the fresh bandages on the table. Mary's pulse froze. Bandages, he said. You patching up someone? My father, she lied calmly. He'll be home any hour. Grady studied her for a long, hard moment. Then he spat, nodded to his men, and turned. Mount up, he barked. We ride south. If they're here, they won't last long. The hoofbeats faded down the road. Mary exhaled for the first time in what felt like an hour. She lifted the trapdoor. The twins climbed out, eyes wide with disbelief. You lied for us, Jeb said quietly. I told the truth that mattered, she answered. You saved my life once. I just returned a favor. Caleb looked at her with something like reverence. You could have let us hang. Mary shook her head. The Lord doesn't abandon those who seek forgiveness. That night, the wind returned, gentler this time. They sat around the fire, the 3 of them, sharing the last of the bread and coffee. What will you do now? Mary asked. Jeb looked into the flames. Can't run forever. Maybe it's time we stop. Turn yourselves in, she asked. Caleb nodded slowly. But not in Abilene. We'll ride to Fort Bowie. There's a judge there still known for listening before hanging. Mary's throat tightened. That's 2 days' ride through outlaw country. Jeb smiled faintly. We'll make it. We always do. She stood and went to her father's old desk, pulling out a leather-bound Bible. Inside was tucked a folded paper, the deed to a parcel of land near the river. Take this, she said. If you live through what's coming, build something good there. Jeb stared at her. You'd give us your land? Mary smiled. It's not mine. It's God's. Maybe he meant it for you. Caleb took the deed, his large hands trembling. We won't forget you, miss. You won't have to, she said softly. I'll be praying every night until you return. Before dawn, they saddled their horses. The valley was still, the first light touching the horizon. Caleb fastened his coat, the silver cross she'd once held now tied to his belt. Jeb mounted up and turned toward her. Mary, he began, then stopped. Words failed him. She stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. Go do what's right, not what's easy. He nodded. You taught us that. As the brothers rode away, the rising sun burned gold through the morning mist, glinting off the hills like a promise. Mary watched until they vanished beyond the ridge. Then she turned toward the ashes of the old church. In the stillness, she knelt. Lord, she whispered, keep them safe, and if their souls be heavy, lift them higher than the storms that chase them. The wind carried her words across the plains, where two riders disappeared into the dawn. And though no one ever saw the Landon brothers again, some nights the folk of Redemption Hill swore they heard hoofbeats in the distance, steady, strong, and unafraid. They said the preacher's daughter had tamed two giants, not with might, but with mercy. And from that mercy, faith itself took root again on the blackened hill.